quiet kitchen, resting silently on this wooden board. A humble root holding forgotten empires. Plunging into the dark earth, we awaken thousands of years ago, amidst the freezing Andean peaks. Life here was an endless struggle, where the piercing wind froze the ground, crushing fragile seeds. The ancient tribes needed a miracle, something that could survive the brutal cold. A hidden savior. Beneath the unforgiving frost, a strange root began to silently expand, defying the deadly chill. They did not forge weapons of iron. Instead, they cultivated this humble tuber, building an empire. It was small and fiercely bitter, packed with deadly toxins in its skin, demanding careful mastery. The mighty Inca civilization rose, not on the back of shining gold, but upon this crop. Above the ground it whispered death, hiding lethal nightshade poison in green leaves, protecting its treasure. To survive the deepest winters, they left it under the frozen stars, a brilliant alchemy. The biting cold ruptured its cells, draining the bitter waters into the earth, stripping away poison. Then came the scorching mountain sun, baking the frozen flesh into hardened stones, creating eternal food. This was the legendary Chuno, a survival technology lasting for 10 years, feeding massive armies. From towering temples to endless roads, their strength flowed entirely from the earth, bound by roots. But across the vast, restless ocean, foreign sails were coming to claim gold, unaware of this treasure. The strange roots traveled far, across the violent, endless, dark ocean, carried by the Spanish fleets, hidden deep in the dark. Waiting inside the damp wooden barrels, they quietly sprouted pale arms. They reached the old continent, stepping into magnificent grand European ports, but they were not welcomed. Scholars examined the ugly skin, holding it with immense deep suspicion, declaring it an evil creation. It was planted for beauty, hidden inside pristine royal botanical gardens, isolated from the starving masses. Above the earth it bloomed, showing delicate purple and white petals, hiding its true, immense power. Queens wore them in hair, parading through magnificent grand palace halls, completely ignoring the hidden roots. Because the plant belonged to the notorious deadly dark nightshade family, people feared its toxic green fruits. Priests preached against the crop, standing inside grand stone village churches, calling it the devil's apple. They cast them into fires, watching the rough skin burn away, believing they carried deadly curses. Yet famine stalked the lands, creeping slowly across frozen, ruined fields, bringing endless death and despair. The wheat crops violently failed, leaving nothing but empty, dry stalks, unable to survive freezing winters. Endless, brutal wars swept through, burning golden crops above the ground, leaving the poor completely devastated. But safely deep underground waiting, the rejected tuber rested quietly, unharmed, protected from the destructive fires. Driven by raw, desperate hunger, a lonely peasant dug into dirt, finally discovering the ultimate salvation. The starving people boiled it, tasting the warm, starchy, golden flesh, a miracle in the dark. Word spread across barren lands, bringing immense hope to dying villages, a quiet, agricultural revolution. Kings recognized its vast power, ordering royal decrees to plant tubers, protecting the fragile kingdoms. King Frederick deployed royal guards, standing fiercely around the green fields, sparking extreme public curiosity. The cunning psychological trick worked, making the peasants steal the crop, planting it in secret. A tiny patch of land yielded mountains of pure, dense calories, changing human history forever. The dark soil cracked open, revealing heavy clusters of golden treasure, completely transforming the earth. For the very first time, the endless cycle of brutal famine was finally broken, permanently. A peasant carefully held it, feeling the heavy weight of survival inside rough, muddy hands. Populations exploded across the continent, filling empty villages with new life, fueled by the root. The humble tuber was transformed, boiling inside iron pots over fire, feeding enormous healthy families. The once rejected ugly vegetable became the beating heart of Europe, supplying raw, vital energy. Deep inside the damp cellars, it waited patiently through freezing winters, a shield against death. Armies marched on full stomachs, conquering distant lands with unmatched strength, backed by hidden fields. The iron plow sliced deep, turning the dark, ancient European soil, preparing for endless abundance. As populations exploded rapidly, the vast open green farmlands slowly transformed into smoking cities. Deep inside the roaring machines, giant, heavy iron gears turned relentlessly, fueled by human sweat. Millions left the quiet fields, walking into dark, crowded industrial slums, seeking a new life. The workers earned mere pennies, barely enough to buy heavy bread, but roots were cheap. Without this dense vital energy, the massive roaring factory steam engines would have stopped entirely. Packed tightly in wooden crates, the humble tubers sat quietly waiting to feed the masses. Coal and iron built machines, but the invisible fuel of empires was grown beneath dirt. Inside the damp, dark slums, an iron pot boiled thick broth, keeping tired souls alive. The rich dined on meat, while the endless, weary working class survived on boiled roots. A child held the skin, feeling the warm, starchy golden flesh, a fleeting, brief comfort. Europe conquered the entire globe, sailing iron ships across vast oceans, powered by fed armies. The roots were easily packed, lasting for months in dark holds, surviving the longest journeys. But in one green island, the people relied entirely on it, planting a single variety. The Irish planted the lumper, a fast-growing pale white potato, completely ignoring the danger. An entire nation of millions stood blindly on a fragile cliff, waiting for the fall. The Emerald Island seemed truly blessed, a green paradise of endless abundance, built on a dangerous, fragile illusion. Millions of identical, pale, white tubers grew tightly together in damp soil, lacking any natural wild genetic defense. Families relied entirely on this crop, feeding children and animals every day, possessing no other source of survival. Because every single plant was identical, the entire vast green agricultural system shared the exact same fatal weakness. Then a dark, invisible shadow arrived, carried quietly by damp ocean winds, crossing the sea from distant lands. A microscopic, deadly, floating fungal spore drifted silently onto the wet leaves, carrying the absolute destruction of millions. At first, no one noticed anything. The green fields looked perfectly normal, hiding the silent infection spreading deep. The insidious, deadly alien water mold pierced easily through the fragile cells, drinking the life from the roots. Rain fell for weeks without end, creating a terribly damp, cold environment, an absolute paradise for the disease. The vibrant, bright, beautiful green leaves suddenly curled and turned pitch black, melting away into disgusting, foul slime. A sickening, sweet stench of decay rolled violently across the Emerald Hills, announcing the sudden arrival of death. Beneath the heavy, soaked, dark earth, the protective skin of the tuber dissolved completely into dark, rotten mush. Farmers awoke to a terrible nightmare, finding their entire massive harvest destroyed, leaving nothing but blackened, dead stalks. Desperate hands dug into the mud, pulling up handfuls of toxic slime, crying out in absolute, pure terror. The miracle crop had violently betrayed, leaving millions to face brutal starvation, while the cold winter rapidly approached. The harsh winter finally descended, blanketing the silent, starving rural villages in a freezing white shroud. Inside the dark, empty cottages, the cold, black iron cooking pots sat completely lifeless and frozen. Millions of hungry, desperate souls walked blindly across the ruined lands, searching for a lost miracle. They marched without any strength, leaving bloody footprints on frozen dirt, driven by raw, empty agony. While the poor peasants starved, massive golden wheat shipments sailed away, guarded by strict royal soldiers. The island produced abundant food, But the heavy, cruel political system denied them their own harvest. Families were forced into workhouses, breaking heavy stones for meager rations, losing their fundamental human dignity. They traded sweat for survival, swinging heavy, cruel, cold iron hammers until their broken bodies collapsed. The green earth became graves, swallowing over 1 million silent victims, claimed by the tragic famine. Entire generations were simply erased, leaving nothing but dark, empty silence, where vibrant communities once thrived. To escape the looming shadow, survivors boarded the infamous coffin ships, fleeing their beloved ancestral home. They carried nothing but sorrow, holding on to small, fragile wooden tickets, sailing into an unknown future. The violent, dark, stormy ocean tested their incredibly fragile, weary spirits, claiming many before reaching shore. Below the heavy wooden decks, disease ravaged the crowded dark holds, turning ships into floating tombs. The Emerald Island faded away, leaving behind a deeply scarred landscape, forever changed by one route. The survivors reached distant shores, crossing the ocean to find hope, arriving in a brand new world. Massive iron statues welcomed them, standing tall under the bright sun, promising a completely different future life. They brought nothing but memories, holding tightly to their rich heritage, building new communities from pure dirt. But the humble root followed, hiding safely deep in their pockets, planting hope in foreign, dark soil. From the freezing snowy mountains to the vast, endless green plains, the tuber quietly conquered new lands. It fed the weary builders, pushing heavy steel across the continent, laying tracks for massive, roaring trains. In the heart of cities, thick, hot potato stew boiled slowly, warming the tired, exhausted immigrant workers. The dark past was remembered, whispered softly around the warm hearth, honoring those who bravely stayed behind. A new, powerful nation thrived, built upon the backs of immigrants, fueled by the exact same crop. It became a global staple, traveling easily to every single continent, feeding billions of hungry human souls. From the deep Asian valleys to the beautiful, warm African coasts, the ancient root finally found peace. Scientists studied its incredible genes, looking deep into the complex DNA, unlocking secrets to prevent future famines. The wild, ancient Andean varieties were carefully preserved inside frozen vaults, guarding the ultimate precious genetic treasure. Humanity learned a harsh lesson, realizing the extreme danger of uniformity, respecting the true delicate natural balance. The once rejected ugly vegetable now stands proudly on every table, a testament to pure human survival. Today, the resilient humble tuber grows across every corner of the world, feeding billions of human souls. It rests quietly on our tables, a silent witness to dark history, bearing the ultimate survival story. High in the ancient freezing Andes, the ancestors of this incredible crop still grow wild and free. The indigenous peoples still preserve it, honoring the ancient sacred survival techniques, deeply respecting the cold earth. The Emerald Island has finally healed, planting diverse, vibrant, green, healthy fields, remembering those who faded away. Carved stones stand in the rain, bearing the silent, heavy, tragic memories, warning against dangerous, arrogant greed. We now lock seeds in ice, protecting the vast, beautiful natural diversity, preventing history from repeating itself. Inside the dark, freezing metal vaults, thousands of different, precious ancient varieties sleep safely, waiting for tomorrow. The cycle of life continues beautifully, pushing green leaves towards the sun, driven by an ancient code. From dirt and absolute crushing darkness, a tiny, fragile, pale green shoot reaches upward, seeking the light. We break bread and share roots, connecting across vast, invisible, deep generations, bound by our human hunger. The golden flesh releases warm steam, whispering tales of massive, forgotten empires into the quiet, modern air. It fueled the rise of machines, saving entire continents from absolute starvation, shaping the modern human destiny. So look closely at the skin, tracing the deeply scarred rough surface, holding the power of gods. A quiet kitchen and a root resting silently on this wooden board, waiting to feed the world.